All right, cyber traders, welcome on back here this Monday afternoon, November 8th, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. Welcome on back here for our afternoon meeting. Just realizing right now I did not fill up on order. That's going to be a struggle. Great to see all of us otherwise. We got Leda, we got Adil, one of our new trial members joining us. We have Bobby and all of us otherwise live inside Cyber Group. Great to see all of you. And of course, if you're joining us back on social media, Facebook Live or YouTube, welcome on back. So I am going to try and talk, we'll say efficiently, just because I'm lacking a little water here. I can't get up. So we're going to try and go through this as best as possible. But we have a lot of places that we could start this meeting off with. There's no better place, in my opinion. Well, really, there would be no better place to start than Bitcoin. We're going to talk about that at the end, folks. You knew I would have to slip that in there at some point. But no better place to start than right from the top. Looking at the top of the gainers list right now, the PPSI stock looks like it's about to make this big shake down. But, for right now, it's up 250%. It's hard to anticipate a drop or a push back down on this stock with how much it had moved up or how well it was moving up until this meeting started. So to recap this stock pretty briefly, I actually went over the pre-market move and the move that it made after the market opened up. We actually covered that from head to toe in the pre-market movers masterclass. We did our whole class on level 3, the ECN book. So I actually recorded a pretty special video of just the chart and the NASDAQ book viewer and how that ended up allowing us to find very strong levels for the stock early on in pre-market. And then it used those levels to generate the run that it made after the market opened up. But man, come back to this stock at like 1:30 in the afternoon, just a hair too late, and you would have been just watching the stock kind of just confused. Is this stock going to keep going up? Is it going to pull back? Here comes our pullback. Hate to say I warned you here. So, nonetheless, right now, this stock just made a really nice move up throughout the course of the early afternoon, maybe making these false breakouts at first, but then really making the next breakout later on. You could see off of 8, it practically ran right over the level, but thankfully it ended up holding it pretty nicely as support. It had a couple of shakes around 9, had a couple of shakes around 10, a couple of shakes around 11. Well, here we are now at 12. It had a shake off the first, test of that level. So that's where I say it wouldn't have shocked me to have seen this drop. And alas, over the last 2 minutes, well, it did. So we'll put this on our list for right now. Either way, it would be hard for us to not put this on our list entirely. And we certainly hope to see the stock continue to move up. Again, though, for as much as it moved up, if this is the end of the road right here, that wouldn't be too shocking. So let me just do one last thing and jump back on the daily chart here. We'll recap a couple of the others that we ended up calling out from the morning, and then otherwise go right from top to bottom. So PPSI, not an all-time high, at least back in 2017. It was like 16, 17 bucks back then off a short squeeze. I don't know if any reverse stock splits, were into effect after, but I mean, I guess it's a lot closer to that all-time high now than compared to Friday, right? So, I don't know how far this will keep pushing up. We got to take this level by level. I would even watch the 13,000 share or so iceberg on the bid currently at 1071. All right, I got from one of us on YouTube joining us for the first time, it seems like, Inner-G84. Welcome aboard. He says, loving the VLTA movement. All right, we'll take a look at that one next. I don't see that on the gainers side, right? Let's jump to that. VLTA, is that a new IPO? Probably a relatively new one. I mean, it looks like it has some activity from the weekly here. We were calling this stock out earlier, and it's pretty interesting. I mean, hey, I didn't find this on the top of the gainers list, albeit it's up over 19%. So as I truly go from top to bottom on the gainers list, folks, I'm sure we're going to find a bunch of stocks that are still tradable or looking good at this point right now. The VLTA stock, for the meantime, I mean, hey, since 12:30 when it made that funky snap down, but right back up, it's been smooth sailing since. I'm really basing this more off of just that run from 12:30. So the part about this trade right now, G84 on YouTube, the part about this trade that I don't like is the declining, the waning volume per minute. Since 2 o'clock, after it hit that peak, volume totally died off. When the volume dies off, I mean, not every stock could be PPSI. So when the volume dies off, oftentimes so does the stock. So, if I have a need to come back to this, I will. And, if it makes a pop, I'd like to put it on our list. Had the EVGO warrants. So this one, we didn't really trade nearly as much as the equity, which is number 5. I may as well skip to this one here for right now. But yeah, EVGO, another nice move up on this stock. We ended up, I think we saw the stock make a nice move. It was from last week. But man, I mean, it was a lot of pre-market activity on this trade. It was trending up pretty nicely going into the open. Well, it ended up making a false breakout, came back down. And I mean, to be really transparent, you would have thought that that would have been the end of the run, that this would likely just kind of consolidate, maybe make, as I would phrase it, the second win type of move later on. Well, I mean, I don't know what you call this. Certainly not a second win type of move. This is like more like a crazy breakout. And right now we're getting the second win type of bounce back up here. So for the EVGO stock, definitely going to put this on our main list. Great liquidity on the order book for right now. You have a major iceberg resistance up top at 14. Hey, if you did well on the warrants and would rather trade the cheaper one, then be my guest. But I'm more focused on the first part of what I just said there. If you already did well on that stock, on this one, the warrants, then you put it on your list. But otherwise, this one's trading a lot less volume out there on level 3. So using level 3 to trade a warrant is a lot more difficult. All right, so that's why I'm more interested in just the stock, the equity, EVGO, without the warrant. CBAT. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Definitely going to put this on our list. Another energy stock making a big move alongside the PPSI today. This one we're really familiar with. We ended up trading this stock on and off, and it's been a little while since we traded them. But you can see back from the latter end of last year going into this year, this stock alongside, if I'm not mistaken, WWR. We had the Pola trade back then. I mean, all of those are relatively affiliated with one another. I mean, even right now, Pola up over 21%, probably would have gotten to this one at some point. The CBAT stock I like more, just not only is it cheaper, but just has a lot more filled in of an order book to work off of. They're practically moving the same, so it wouldn't shock me if I put at least Pola on the main list at the end. Got the Vino trade made a big pop going into the mid to late morning. I don't know, kind of wacky chart right now, range bound, and a big spike earlier. So, if we call this one out, it would be later on, probably after 3 o'clock. Kinds move already finished up on that trade. The AUTL, I took about 20 cents on this just a moment ago, or probably like 30 minutes ago, and it broke under and over from 7. Bobby, I hate to say this to you, but I ended up jumping in here from 7. I know you're looking for 7.18 as an entry level. Well, when you told me that you were looking at the trade, I was like, we'll give it one shot. We're going to set a really tight stop, and whatever. If I lose a penny, whatever. Well, this one is actually perfect timing. It broke under and over from 7, made a move right up. Unfortunately, it failed to cleanly break above the opening bell print price off 718. I got out. Actually, that I don't know how much I told you I just made there. It was an 11-cent profit. I now remember the stock pulled back, and then I got out. And then obviously right now at this point, the volume died off. I wouldn't have expected this stock to make the run here. And at this point right now, if it's not going to pop very shortly from right now, I just think it's going to keep dumping off. Blink, familiar name, another EV stock charging company. So, I know there's a couple of stocks moving up pretty nicely with the EVs, but yeah, Blink right now, albeit kind of making lower highs, filling in the wedge pattern, so to say. So it's just much closer to the highs than a lot of these other stocks we've looked at so far. I don't mind putting the Blink trade on our list. It's probably more of a level 3 to 4 stock given the liquidity and spread out there. QuantumScape still very tradable. This one also right around the same price, as the Blink. The fuel cell trade, which is relatively slower, but albeit still lingering around the highs. It would be hard for me to not put FCell on our watch list. It's shortable too. So if this makes a false breakout over 11, snaps right back down, that actually could be a very good opportunity to see it kind of crap out the other way. I'll put the FCell trade on our main list. That one looks pretty interesting to me. The Chrono stock here, CRON, I don't know, why this stock's up so much. I know the pot stocks moved pretty nicely earlier, but Chronos made a much bigger jump percentage-wise. Chronos, CGC, Tilray. I know Brian did really well on Tilray earlier today inside Cyber Group. A lot of these right now are kind of going the other way, pulling back, and otherwise just pretty slow compared to how they were trading earlier in the morning. What else we got here? Just skimming the gainers list for right now. I guess that leads me to number 21 and 22, Mara and Canon, the Bitcoin or crypto mining affiliated stocks. Out of all of these, I like Canon. I mean, it's right at the highs. Just very reluctant at putting this on the watch list right now because of our history with a lot of these stocks that have been moving at the highs going into the close. I'm referring to the crypto stocks. They rarely have ever ended up moving up higher. Even on days where I was pretty optimistic of them doing that, they didn't. So, it's almost like a rule that I have where I don't put those stocks on our afternoon watch list unless if they're already down 15, 20% to where we could try and be more hopeful for a dead cat bounce. But, hey, looking at BTBT here quick, this one I'm still in on a swing trade. I ended up averaging down on this at 11 back on Friday afternoon or Friday morning. So my average price right now is at 11.16. So, dropping a little bit, but I'm not too concerned. All right. That's just about it on the gainer side, folks. I know there's still a ton of stocks that are up, more than 5%, 10%. So if you see any that are actually, looking decent across the last 20, 30 minutes, type it in the chat board. Let me know right now, and then I'll come back to you at the end. We'll look at the CNEY stock down 56+% right now. Pretty flat. It was down enough for me to at least look at it. OTRK, hard to borrow on TradeStation. If it's easy to borrow for you, then that could be a pretty good short opportunity for you going into the close. GTBP, try saying that one 3 times fast. Jeez. All right, I'll tell you what. I mean, it might seem lazy just based on how fast I'm kind of calling it, but I'm looking at the losers list. There's nothing really here that's a familiar name that's really catching my eye that's shortable. A couple like stocks that we've traded in the past, like AEHR, Peloton, pretty expensive. We'll look at AEHR fast, down over 10+%. Whoa, this thing just took a huge hit right now, and then just spiked back up pretty quickly. That piques my interest to a small degree, but with what we have on the gainers list, I'm just more interested if there's any other stocks that I missed. It's going to be from the gainer side. So interesting, but the volume totally died off after. I don't have a need to put this on our watch list right now. Norman says, how about the blue trade from Friday? I skipped over that, but I saw that on the list. It's at the lows, and this actually does have pretty damn good liquidity. It's not only at the lows the day today, but it actually ended up, I forgot, this stock was from Friday last week, but to the point where it made a complete pop and drop, closed at the lows. So this only continued dropping off more, and it's at all-time lows too. That I do remember. So there we go. This is actually a really good call out right now, this blue trade. All right, so aside from blue, I don't think we're going to get much more on the loser side. Watch me jinx myself there. But if there's anything else that you folks see that's up, down, left, right, more than 5%, just type it in the chat board now. And finally, I get the hot tag, and we're going to talk a little bit about crypto. So here's the thing, folks. You can't just jump into it expecting, a big pop right out the gate. I say that now because, well, we had a big pop, so it's probably going to catch a lot more eyeballs. Probably after, hearing me talk about it for God knows how long, you start to see a pop and then say, hey, maybe now is the time for me to get in. Last thing that you want to do is just jump headfirst into a trade just because we're talking about it. We've been talking about this for the last year. So recently, really over the last few days since Friday afternoon here, we ended up seeing Bitcoin begin to hold over the 500 EMA. Now this is the hourly chart. I'll go back to the 6-hour graph, which is what I was more focused on. But over time, it ended up beginning to move up. It broke a trend line, which was holding really nicely off of these highs here. I know this peak was like a false breakout, you could kind of say, but really once it broke this trend line, the next go around right here, off and running she went. So to tell you the truth right now, folks, as much as I love my Cardano, my ADA, and that's had a little bit of a pop over the last few hours here, on Friday night or Saturday early or like midnight or whatever, overnight, I ended up taking out like 3/4 of my Cardano position. I was cutting close to about 50,000 Cardano tokens. So I took about 3/4 of that and I put it into a Bitcoin futures position. Not every broker or exchange has a futures option, but the one I'm on, which is KuCoin, does. So it's basically margin trading. So I've done pretty well since. and I only expect to do a lot better coming up. But again, go back to what we were talking about last week, the week before on Bitcoin. What we're looking for is to see this make a push up towards like near 100,000. I would go a little bit lower. I would say between 89 to 92,000 by the end of this month. Had Ethereum just smooth sailing the whole time. And I'm sure Cardano will get more of a pop at some point. I still own a lot of Cardano, so I'm rooting it on seriously. But I did transfer a lot of that position over into Bitcoin futures position. So that's what I'm predominantly in right now at this point. All right, as far as these horizontal lines that I drew really quickly, because I showed that on Friday, I went a little extra and I ended up creating these resistance and support lines, how resistance can become support and support can become resistance. But for right now, this stock breaking above 63,000 here, which is the line that I last drew up top in red, should this pull back, I would definitely expect Bitcoin to hold, if not right above, then maybe just a little bit underneath or around this red line to see it hold as support and then for it to make the next leg up. All right, so that's pretty much it on the Bitcoin front, but I was pretty excited to show that, and I think that we're going to have a really strong week here altogether. Leda says the Newegg trade, so we'll type that in here. Kind of wild. Ooh, definitely wild, and not only that, steady for the meantime. Yeah, perfect. Newegg. We traded this stock. When was it? Probably off its IPO. Or not IPO. It was to say, I don't know if it was a newly listed ticker, but we ended up trading this stock. It was on this day here where it made this giant explosion, short squeeze, and then from there obviously came back down over time. So, I'll say this on Newegg, as I say on a lot of stocks that look like this, and you're looking at the daily. If this stock can make a fraction of the type of move that it made for us back in early July, be a home run. And it's already made that. I know it's already made that to go from 13 to 18. I mean, that is a fraction of that type of move, and that's a pretty extended move already here on the 1 minute chart. So we'll look to see this begin to pull back. Wouldn't shock me if this comes all the way down to 15 first. But definitely great call from Leda here on the Newegg trade. Norman says SPI made a small pop. Up 14+% at the highs. I'm going to put it on our list for right now, given the recent afternoon move. But if this one ends up dying off, I would just kind of scrap this from the list altogether then. All right, folks, going once, going twice, going thrice. I think that just about wraps it up for me here. Yep, that just about does it, folks. I don't see anything else from YouTube or Facebook Live, to which I appreciate all of us joining us here today, as I do every day. But hey, for all of us on YouTube or for all of us on Facebook Live, if you have any questions that you would like to send over my way, feel more than free to do so by sending it right to my email address, josh@c2trading.com. If you're ready to make the plunge and join us live inside the cyber group room for the 151 of us there right now, I got Brian, Leda, Norman, you got Bobby in there, and all of us otherwise. You can go right down to the link on the banner below the stream right there. The link will show up probably pretty shortly there, and you'll be able to sign up for a week-long trial. But otherwise, for all of us live inside the trading room, I'll be back on the mic myself right around 3:30 Eastern time, give or take a few minutes, folks. I'll talk to you all then. Take care.